So with there just being a couple of days left till the release of version 2.1 and Phoebe's banner in particular, after the recent livestream showcasing some of her gameplay, there will certainly be a number of players looking to pick her up, especially since she is going to be our first Spectra DPS since Jinxin, and so with just that, there truly is a lot of potential stored within her kit. With that being said, we now do officially have access to Phoebe's full kit and the effects of her signature weapon. So to provide some clarity on exactly how she works, I'll be breaking down Phoebe's full kit and whether her signature weapon is a must pull. Then I'll be wrapping it up with Phoebe's overall value, and for those that are still a bit unsure, if you should summon for Phoebe. Before we get into it, as always, would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content and drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Now diving into Phoebe's kit, as most are aware, Phoebe will be a Spectra Rectifier character and can be utilized as either a main DPS or sub DPS, since alongside Phoebe being able to deal enough damage specifically through her basic and heavy attacks to be considered as a main damage dealer, the fact that she has great concerto efficiency and the Spectral Frazzle mechanic being a core function within her kit as stated through her combat roles, it means Phoebe will have fast rotations and not occupy the field that much and can deal dot damage through Spectral Frazzle whilst even off field. So there clearly will be some amazing versatility with the team compositions you are able to build around Phoebe. Now kicking it off with the basic attacks, Phoebe has a simple 3-hit ranged basic attack string able to deal spectral damage whilst keeping distance from enemies. With activating the heavy attack, Rays of Light will be dealt from above and should be able to hit multiple enemies that are close together. Then you have both mid-air basic and heavy attacks that allow Phoebe to ride her staff and lunge into the enemy, dealing damage. Now as standard, Phoebe's basic attacks and heavy attacks likely won't be that impressive in terms of DPS, but tied with the Resonant skill and Forte circuit, they are both capable of a lot more. As for the Resonant skill to where light shines, it deploys a ring of mirrors lasting for 30 seconds and is capable of a few abilities, such as being able to pull together and stagnate enemies in place for 2 seconds, which is a bit similar to Carlotta's Resonant skill. With just that feature alone, it will allow Phoebe to be extremely comfortable to utilize, as the ring of mirrors would provide a few extra seconds to plan ahead and to even stop a huge attack from a boss. Now with activating the Resonant skill, it will cast the ring of mirrors at the target's location, but depending on whether the target's location is further ahead of Phoebe or if it's at Phoebe's location will be a considerable factor. The reason being would be Phoebe is capable of specific abilities and attacks whilst inside and outside of the ring of mirrors. Once Phoebe is outside of the ring of mirrors, her basic attacks and dodge counters will refract holy light and deal additional spectral damage towards enemies within the ring. On top of that, enemies are pulled together to allow Phoebe to deal damage more efficiently, and the additional attacks will be considered as basic attack damage. Now activating the Resonant skill once again will teleport Phoebe into the ring and on arrival will deal a small burst of damage. In addition, with Phoebe now in the ring, it will switch her basic attacks into enhanced basic attacks known as Chamyol Star, which do gain a lot more area of effect to be able to hit multiple enemies with ease and will still be considered as basic attack damage. So between both Phoebe being outside of the ring and within the ring of mirrors, of course it's difficult to confirm without the official multipliers, but it's fair to believe that Phoebe's basic attacks whilst in the ring will be capable of dealing the most damage, given she does lose the safety factor of dealing damage from distance. Although a combination of both in certain situations with lots of enemies would perhaps be ideal, since Phoebe can cast the ring of mirrors at the enemy's location and pull them together with her basic attacks outside of the ring. Then she can teleport soon after into the ring and deal a small burst of damage and enhanced basic attacks, which already makes Phoebe seem to be an extremely powerful and fun DPS to play with. Moving on to the core of Phoebe's kit, the Forte circuit's Radiant Invocation will essentially allow Phoebe to enter 2 different stances known as Absolution and Confession. Accessing them would be achievable through Phoebe's Forte gauge, which does hold a max of 120 prayers and is able to accumulate 5 prayers every second that passes. Now that will be very unique to every other character that relies on dealing attacks in order to fill their Forte, since then you wouldn't be required to waste any time with regular attacks to fill Phoebe's Forte gauge and can switch her onto the field when the gauge is filled. Once the gauge has been maxed, Phoebe can either activate the heavy attack Absolution Litany, and along with applying 1 stack of Spectral Frazzle to the enemy's hit, it will allow Phoebe to enter the Absolution stance, which is better known as Phoebe's main DPS stance, as she will be able to deal more damage. Or Phoebe can activate the Resonant skill to cast Utter Confession, and once again, alongside applying 1 stack of Spectral Frazzle to the enemy's hit, it allows Phoebe to enter the Confession stance, which would be better known as the sub DPS stance, as she can then exploit Spectral Frazzle. Now, entering either stance will provide Phoebe with a max of 60 Divine Voice and access to the enhanced heavy attack Star Flash, which is capable of various abilities depending on the stance Phoebe has entered and can only be activated after certain requirements have been met, which would be to either deal a final basic attack or a dodge counter. With that being met, casting the heavy attack Star Flash during the Absolution state will deal significantly more damage at the cost of 15 Divine Voice, as the skill itself receives a 256% damage amplification, which is insane as it can be activated a total of 4 times, and without it out will be one of the strongest abilities within Phoebe's kit. However, when activating the Star Flash heavy attack during the Confession state, 30 Divine Voice will be consumed and will apply 5 stacks of Spectral Frazzle, which means a total of 10 stacks can be applied in a short window, as the attack can be activated twice. So just as the Absolution state allows Phoebe to hit insanely hard, the Confession state will enable Phoebe to be incredible as a sub DPS. With that, it's clear to see that Phoebe won't just be average in both positions, but will specialize in playing as both a main damage dealer and sub DPS. Now, stemming off the Forte circuit and looking at the Resonant Liberation, along with the clean looking animation of Phoebe bonking down on enemies, the Liberation is expected to deal a considerable amount of damage as standard. However, depending on the stance Phoebe is in whilst popping the Liberation will lead to additional effects, as the Liberation can either receive a 255% damage multiplier in the Absolution stance, or apply 8 stacks of Spectral Frazzle to enemies hit within the Confession stance, which again really allows Phoebe to specialize in the role you prefer and can adjust to your needs in the middle of a fight. Since if your main DPS doesn't deal enough damage to finish a boss within the time remaining, Phoebe can then switch into Absolution state to deal more damage to potentially clear with the time left, which once again shows off her amazing versatility. As for the intro and outro skills, the intro in specific will teleport Phoebe onto the field and will just deal spectral damage, which is pretty straightforward. Although with the outro skill, along with having great area of effect in dealing spectral damage, if Phoebe is within the Absolution state, the skill's damage will receive a 255% damage multiplier increase. If within the Confession state, then the outro skill is capable of applying a 10% spectral resistance shred on the enemy's hit, alongside providing a 100% damage increase for the stacks of Spectral Frazzle left on the enemy and extends the duration of each stack by 50%. So essentially, the outro skill within the Confession state will allow Phoebe to not only synergize with any spectral DPS such as Jinxin, but very well with any other DPS, since her Spectral Frazzle stacks will deal enhanced damage and last for a while. Now, finishing it off with the inherent skills, they really aren't anything special, which is fine considering how stacked Phoebe's kit currently is. With the first inherent skill, it will allow Phoebe to cast the mid-air heavy attack one more time, which essentially allows her to cover more distance whilst up in the air and to of course deal an additional lunge attack into the enemy. As for the second inherent skill, it provides a 12% spectral damage bonus when Phoebe enters either the Absolution or Confession state, which is certainly great overall, but is still pretty simple. So that would wrap it up for Phoebe's full kit breakdown, but before I go through her overall value and whether she's worth pulling for, as for the value of Phoebe's signature weapon, to no surprise it will be the best in slot, but more along the lines of Camelia's signature weapon being extremely refined for Phoebe exclusively. The main set provides the same 500 base attack and massive 36% crit rate boost similar to Yinlin's weapon, along with the passive increasing attack by 12% and upon dealing damage with Spectral Frazzle Frazzle, Phoebe receives a 14% bonus in both basic attack and heavy attack damage, stacking up to a total of 42%. In addition, casting the outro skill amplifies the damage from Spectral Frazzle on enemies by 30% for 30 seconds. So it's fair to believe even more than Camellia's signature weapon, Phoebe's weapon is insanely restricted, as the only Rectifier character that utilizes Spectral Frazzle would be herself, and I imagine it will remain that way for a while. Though with the stat bonuses in specific, and aside from the general 12% attack bonus, a main damage dealer Phoebe within the Absolution stance would mostly just benefit from the basic and heavy attack damage bonus, since she doesn't apply many stacks of Spectral Frazzle to gain much value from the 30% damage increase. Therefore, if you intend to use Phoebe as a main damage dealer on your account, then she could get by without the signature weapon, and especially considering when there are alternatives such as the String Master or Rhyme Drape Sprouts, which are both better than expected since Phoebe can cast 2 resonant skills instantly to access more of their passives. Then there's the Cosmic Ripples, which can provide an ample basic attack damage bonus along with an energy regen increase. Lastly, the new 4-star rectifier we are receiving in 2.1 will be another alternative for a main damage dealer Phoebe, considering the passive can increase the wielder spectral damage by up to a max of 40% at max refinement when dealing damage to enemies with Spectral Frazzle. So with those in mind, the signature weapon doesn't seem like a must pull, but of course will still remain as the best in slot for Phoebe, and especially with how much longevity Phoebe does hold, given her versatility and being the first dot character, the signature weapon would then share that longevity and would definitely be worth it for those that intend to utilize Phoebe long term. Also, the signature not only allows Phoebe to be an even better main damage dealer, but an even better sub DPS, and so for those that may want to utilize Phoebe as a sub DPS, which I suspect will be her best position long term, may then be more inclined to pick up the signature, as it is the only weapon that amplifies the damage dealt from Spectral Frazzle. Overall, Phoebe is an incredibly valuable character, and it's mostly due to being able to specialize in 2 different positions with her stance mechanic. So unlike just being average in both main and sub DPS positions, from what we can tell so far, she should be a powerful main damage dealer that deals significant damage through multiple abilities, as well as an amazing sub DPS that can inflict tons of Spectral Frazzle and shred Spectral resistance. Of course, then considering the other abilities within her kit, such as stagnating enemies in the Ring of Mirrors, crowd controlling enemies slightly together to ensure all enemies are hit, the ability to deal damage from range allowing for more comfort, quick rotations due to great concerto efficiency, amazing area of effect with multiple attacks, and even her mobility, given she can teleport and fly around enemies. So if you are looking for a character that will be a great investment for your account long term, then Phoebe will definitely be a character to consider picking up. Specifically, if you need a universal sub DPS that can also play as a great main damage dealer whenever you want, especially considering how free-to-play friendly her team compositions are for now, you really can't go wrong with picking up Phoebe. On the other hand, if you have fully built 2 to 3 teams that can pretty much clear all content without much hassle, then of course there isn't a need for Phoebe unless you are a fan of her design. In addition, if you are perhaps a Changli main and if you can only pick up 1 character in 2.1, then the better banner to invest in would be Bronze in the second phase, since he is expected to be a sub DPS with supportive capabilities and so would hold a lot of value for Changli. All in all, Phoebe is likely going to be an amazing character but shouldn't exactly break the meta and so wouldn't be a must pull, although she certainly will be a character you won't regret picking up and will benefit most accounts in one way or another. And with that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Would really appreciate it if you could subscribe for more WutheringWaves content, and if you enjoyed the video, drop a like. Also, drop a comment down below on your favorite aspect of Phoebe and whether you will be pulling for her alone or with her signature weapon. And yeah, hope to catch you guys later.